After watching hundreds of hours of interviews and videos, I've collected the ultimate compilation on how to grow your business with YouTube from some of the most successful upcoming business leaders using social media.
Making YouTube videos doesn't have to be as hard as you think. David's actually figured out a really easy way that works for him.
When I start, I open up all of my tabs in advance. So we're going to be looking at this tool, we're going to be looking at this tool, and then I open up Loom, put myself in the corner, and I just start recording. It's pretty loose. I don't really have much of a script. I do take bullet point notes for an outline sometimes, but for the most part, it's just me talking about what I know and what we do at our agency. And I'm being very, very candid and very straightforward about it. I have gotten into writing the intro though. I think that that's important to kind of hook someone and keep them watching. But after that, it's all just straightforward education. This is exactly how you do this. This is exactly what it means. After that video is recorded, I go through, I edit it with CapCut. I just cut it down, and I don't like a lot of long pauses, and I don't like a lot of ums and ahs, because I think it just helps with the retention of the video. But that's really it. After I export it, I upload it to YouTube.
How long does it take you to do a whole video now, start to finish?
I would say my time to shoot and put a video out though has been reduced quite a bit. If I shoot it Wednesday night, I can have it up by Thursday.
And you're just making them to be found in search, right?
Yes, they are search based. I do try to be careful in how it's titled and what the description says. You know, YouTube SEO as they call it.
So now I want to talk about the big breakthrough that you had once you started getting, a little bit of traction on one of your videos. So what did you notice and how did you capitalize on it to get even better results?
We produced a video on Google LSA, and I was paying attention to all of my past videos and about how many views they were getting in a day. And on average, it was, maybe 10 to 20 views in a day, but the LSA video had gotten about 50 in a day. And I thought, wow, this one is moving quite a bit. A few days later, it was over 100. And I thought, okay, this is a topic that people care about. It also had the most engagement as far as likes and comments. So I thought, well, I'm going to do another LSA video because I have more to say on this particular topic. I released the second LSA video and it followed the trend. It got quite a bit more views and engagement than some of my other videos. So LSA seemed to be something that people were interested in, and I just capitalized on the engagement because I just paid attention.
It's like in blackjack, when you've got a good hand, you double down on it. In this case, that just means when you make a video that outperforms your others, make another on that topic. And as long as each one you do performs well, you can keep going back to that topic over and over again. Your audience is obviously into it, and it lets you really easily create binge sessions that way. And in this past month, how many clients have you gotten from YouTube?
It would be 5.
That's amazing that it's taken off that fast for you. So if you're comfortable sharing, what's the average value of one of these new clients?
It's anywhere from $18,000 to about $30,000 per year because they pay us monthly. We're talking over $100,000 from YouTube.
If you want success on YouTube, you want to focus on solving specific problems your ideal clients face. You want to make videos around searchable titles using keywords that they will actually type in, and design thumbnails that people actually want to click. Showing transformations or results tends to work best. And you want to include clear calls to action that direct viewers back to your business in your video descriptions.
Packaging matters a ton, right?
Yeah. Packaging's everything.
If they don't click, they don't watch. And
Yeah.
so you might have incredible content, but the packaging is off. We noticed that for ourselves. I feel like we just started to dial in our packaging, and we are noticing a significant increase in the average of what all of our videos are performing.
That 1 million view video, it's like how to become a master storyteller. That video I filmed 6 months before, the exact same video. The only thing we changed was the thumbnail and then me posting it on an audience matched channel. On the previous channel, the Zuck channel, it topped out at 1,700 views and it's at 1.2 million now. And all we changed was the thumbnail and the channel. So that just shows YouTube is not this sucks to hear, but YouTube is not a video platform. It's a packaging platform. Can you get the person to click? And then can you give them enough in the first 30 seconds to confirm the click is the colloquial term, but satisfy the curiosity. From there, it's just are you interesting, entertaining? So what I did is I took the medicine and just started from scratch and said, I'm only posting videos for this specific audience, which for me is business owners that want to use content to grow their business. And then I think the 5th video got 1 million views, 6th video was like 200K. And then it was just straight up from there because all those people came, saw the bio, saw the historical videos, and then every video since then has just been for them.
So if somebody wants to start a YouTube channel and see the type of success you did, what would be those first few steps you would tell them to get off to a great start?
Yeah, so the number one critical thing is to identify the ideal viewer avatar is what I call it. And the way to find that out is if you have a product or service already, you probably know who the buyer is. So like that's easy. If you don't have a product or service, you need to think really hard about who is the audience I want to serve. That's either going to be someone you are or used to be, like an audience profile you used to be, someone that you want to spend a decade in that community like talking to, or someone that's going to end up buying directionally the type of product you want to build. You kind of have to spend a lot of time figuring out who that ideal avatar is. Based on that, you can then mine for, so that's like step one. The second step is then you have to find out what surface they're on. We're going to assume it's YouTube here, but like I make content everywhere. It depends. Let's just say YouTube. Number 3 is you have to mine for their pain points. So like figure out what does that person have a problem with? And this is for like educational type content, which is what I focus on because that's how you really make money with content. If you're doing entertainment, it's a completely different game, which I would ignore for listening to me because I don't have the advice tailored for that. Next thing is you're going to map their workflow and their pain points. So if it's an audience that's looking for tax help, you got to map the entire tax like process and then find micro pain points within that process. The best type of person to make tax content is a former accountant because they know the process so intimately. So it's not work to figure out what the workflow is. If you're not an accountant, but you want to sell tax stuff, you're going to have to go interview people that struggle with their taxes and go super deep. So step 1 is the avatar. Step 2 is kind of the formats and surfaces, which let's say YouTube. Step 3 is the pain points. And then step 4, I guess we're like giving the whole sauce in the first 5 minutes, but
come on, dude, give it to him.
Step 4 is really the key. Step 4 is where the golden goose really is, which is what solution for those pain points do you have that is contrary to the common belief? So let's say the tax example, you've mapped the workflow. It's like, yeah, taxes blow. Here's the 15 steps. The number one thing people struggle with is like itemizing their expenses, let's say. Now, typically people that have no idea about how to do that, you can give them anything. But most people have some sense. That's the common belief. So they're like, okay, I could do it for my meals and my travel, but whatever. So what do you know that is different from that common belief that you can then put in a video to give value? The contrast, the difference between what they believe and what you know, that is where the kind of like interest curve spikes. That's why people associate value with you. That's why they trust you. So if you just do those 4 steps and then do it consistently, weekly for a year, I guarantee you will build a 6-figure audience in any niche. That's all you have to do. But if you get on the wrong track or you don't have actual value for those solutions, it's not going to work.
I mean, we also talked about the example on the phone with Diary of a CEO you have a health expert on that's known for sleep, and their take is wildly different than anything else that is traditional in the space.
Yeah.
And those videos are booming because everyone that sees that thumbnail goes, bullshit. I want to see what this person has had to say.
And I'll say that the Diary of a CEO is an interesting case study against what I'm saying. Not in the solution piece. The thing you said was dead on. It's more in the audience avatar, right? Because he's coming out with episodes that are like the health expert, the dating expert, the finance expert. So he's kind of violating the like super single audience avatar thing, but it works for him because he's already an outlier. If you scroll all the way back down, he was much more targeted in terms of like business type audiences. Once he got over 1 to 2 million in subscribers, he started expanding and broadening it because he ran out of like the business owner audience essentially. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I thought you just said pick one profile. If I look at Diary of the CEO, he's targeting all these different videos. That's the nuance. But the thing you said is dead on, which is when he brings the guest on, the reason you click and why it's so compelling is because of the contrast between what they're saying and what you typically believe. Right now, my team is runs about 7K a month. And I have an ideas team that is responsible for once a month I get on a call. This guy is absolutely cracked. He gives me 20 ideas that are validated in my niche, titles done, and then not a bunch, but 1 to 3 thumbnail ideas. He gives that to me on the call. We go over it. He pitches me the idea. I say like, oh, I have something for that. Maybe not. If I don't, he crosses it off. He organizes the list for me. So literally every week when I have to make 2 videos, I open that doc, pick the top idea. That's my idea. I don't think at all about the title, at all about, obviously over time we've hashed out why we do certain things, but now this guy's cracked. So they do that for me. Hand me the ideas doc. I then film the video. I script on my own, which our software sandcastles.ai soon will have long form scripting. So you'll just be able to like describe your video, put in the outline, we'll write the whole thing for you. For now, it sucks to write a YouTube video, as you guys probably know. So I do that on my own, and then I record it. I hand that recording to an editor. The editor, fully turnkey. I don't have any notes for them. They just bring it back to me. And then my thumbnail guy takes the whole package and then makes the thumbnail based on the title and also the kind of like inspiration that the ideas team pulled in the doc. So ideas team, thumbnail designer, editor. That's my squad. And that's my squad. And it's the A team, honestly. Like
The Avengers.
yeah. Without that, I couldn't do YouTube because it's I don't want to edit for 20 hours a week. It's just too hard to edit. Most people will give 85%, 90% of the sauce, keep the best 10%, try to bait you into selling something. When the person buys the $2,000 course, the thing that they kept is actually shit. And so that's where the clickbait, the like course scammer narrative
comes from.
How I'm thinking about it is I'm going to give you 100%. The best shit I have, I'm giving it. A, because I think it's dope. B, I want to help as many people as possible. The 5% of people that have the agency to go act on it, go get yours. Like they were going to get it anyway. But for the 95% of people that are either too lazy or too confused, I will sell speed and compression on top of the stuff I know. Now, the reason why it's beneficial to do it the way I'm doing it is because I know my shit because I'm giving it all away for free, right? And that builds more trust. So I wish more people, even if I sold a course, I think I'm warranted to do it because I've already given away the answers. And so if you're buying it, you're like, I got the answers, but I need help with the implementation, right? So I wish more people approached it that way.
If we've identified YouTube's number one, okay, we do need to make direct to camera videos because right now, still to this day, that is working really well. And so we need to figure out your version of that where we can demonstrate your knowledge, right? What are the formats and mediums that show your expertise, your knowledge in the best way possible? I'm a big fan of demonstrate. Right? Like a lot of people are just talking, but you need to show it in action. And whatever that's different versions for different people. For some people, if they have a group coaching call, cool. It's just making sure that makes it online, even at the expense, in my opinion, of views. Because ultimately, I think that brand is far more than just views. And so you want to make sure that you are playing. I typically, when we're making content, I like to think of it as one objective. Either this is a width play, we're trying to get maximum amount of awareness, or this is a depth play. We're trying to build a deeper connection and trust with our current audience. And if you aim for one or the other, that's great. If you try to do both, you're not going to accomplish either.
In a single piece of content, you mean?
Correct. Yeah. And the reason why I like to do this is because I like the team and the talent I'm working with to understand what winning looks like. But you don't understand what winning looks like if you don't define what that is on the upfront. And so I like to call it out in production. I'm like, this video, we all know this is a super deep, heady video. This is not going wide, but everyone who watches this is going to be like, damn, Jay's a fucking expert.
Love that. So when you are thinking about the proportion of width versus depth content, what is your typical go-to?
Just like I said up top, I follow the accordion method. You have to contract and expand it over time. In the beginning, I actually recommend, a lot of my counterparts would say, go the width play, right? Like make really wide content, top of funnel, get more people. But if you make content around the fact that like your Starbucks order hack, for example, right? And that's not what you're not a fitness person, you're a business person, but that's what you do. You're going to get a lot of audience that just wants more of that content. So it goes to what we were talking about at the top where you trap yourself, right? So in the beginning, I believe people should build far more deep content, demonstrate your expertise, establish that you are a true subject matter expert. That's why video number 2 that I'm going to be posting on my YouTube is going to be like super in depth, right? Like I want to establish to the audience that I'm going to be building, I'm not just one of those guys that's talking about the current Instagram hack that I've seen Mosseri post and that I'm just regurgitating, right? Like, no, I've been in this for 16 fucking years. Like I have some thoughts based on data, right? I believe you want to build that strong foundation. The people that do the other, they have a very tough time transitioning into their core subject matter that leads to their core offer. And so in the beginning, establish depth. And over time, I believe people should then start to add more context to who they are to their brand.
Look for the 1% improvements every single day. And funnily enough, over 4 years, that compounds very, very heavily in your favor. But our graphs of growth, if you look at the Diver CEO, you can find them online. For the first year, it looks pretty much like this. And that's where most people quit, right? Most people don't see the success that we're having now in that period of time, and they quit and drop off because they lose interest. They don't think they're gaining the success. They're not seeing sort of more listenership, and they're still speaking to only 20 people every week. And they're thinking, this is not worth my time. It's not worth the effort. And it was only after that year of consistent input, consistent experimentation, trying to find the opportunity, sweating this thing as if it was being seen by billions of people, that we then, after year one of going every single week, started to see that compound impact. And I remember we just celebrated downstairs before we recorded this, handing the YouTube plaque for 100K subscribers to one of our new podcast hosts, whose show has gone from, well, it's now well over 100K, but the YouTube plaques were always a little delay, of one of our new shows. And that did 0 to 100K, I think, in 3 months. And I remember so clearly it taking us maybe 18 months to hit 100K on the Diary of a CEO on YouTube. And at that point, we thought it couldn't get any better than that. We'd put blood, sweat, and tears into that thing to get it to 100K. And now to think we're just about to hit 10 million is completely surreal. But at the same time, we've just gone day after day. And it just, with everything in the performance world, consistency compounds in your favor over time if you're willing to consistently improve and consistently feedback and learn. And it's what we've been obsessed with. It's in our DNA. We have an average view duration alarm where if we see it significantly go up, we draw attention to it, we study it, we understand why it's working, where it's gone wrong, why it's gone right. And we're trying to then implement that in future editions too. So they're the sort of ones you've got to be looking at for growth, because ultimately it's about signaling to the algorithm that people are willing to share and push that across their channels. And then if you're looking for something like conversion, you need to be obsessing over link clicks and profile visits and website clicks, because you're drawing people into the funnel. It's a different stage of your goals, or like what you're trying to achieve. So I always say I can't give you like a blanket metric that's really important, but when you look at what you're trying to achieve, there should be a really clear link between the metric that should dictate that. If it is engagement, like your comments are critical. If you've got multiples, if no one's engaging in your comments, it's unlikely they're going to, they're not in that funnel beyond the reach section, so they're not going to convert and buy the product. So you really do need to understand what you're trying to achieve in this stage of your business and attach the metrics to that in order to measure success. Maybe your long form piece of content, if you have a podcast or a YouTube or a vlog, is actually where you're like measuring success of value of your customer. Because I actually believe that the marketing funnel has changed. I know a lot of people are talking about this, and we're not necessarily going after reach, consideration, conversion anymore. We're all in the game of attention. And ultimately, we're all media companies, whether we like it or not. We're a very obvious media company. We label ourselves as a media company, but Red Bull's a media company, or Dove is a media company. I don't know if these brands they're pretty international. And we're all in the game of attention, which is the most expensive thing we can try and convert or gain. It's the most expensive currency there is. So I actually would look at it more as an attention funnel. And if you can capture people's attention, best believe they're going to buy your product. You've done the hard bit. So they're going to convert. If you can keep people's attention for a long period of time, you don't really have to worry about the conversion stage, because you've already brought them in. So I would be focusing on what platforms are playing what role in that attention funnel. You've probably got your top of funnel, which is your short form, your TikToks, your Instagram Reels, your YouTube Shorts. That will then go in sort of a mid-level, which is your slightly longer form content, or your more in-depth content, or maybe you're doing live streams or webinars, or maybe it's your email or whatever it is. And that bottom of funnel really is if you can get people to stay for a long period of time on your content. So it's followers, but it's also community members. It's people coming to your live events, and it's your long form podcast episodes. Are they getting all the way through, and have you captured their attention? Because once people are in with that attention, it's about retention and loyalty. And it's very easy to sort of convert that to purchase stage. So if you focus your attention on the attention funnel, everything else comes very easily, I think, in 2025. People are misunderstanding the brand part of personal branding. Personal, if it was just personal, it would be the pictures of your dogs, the selfies we see on LinkedIn. It's the, here's my day in the life and this is what happened to me today. That's all lovely. That's you and your person, and maybe your friends care, or maybe a couple of people on the internet care. A personal brand is about setting a goal and being very intentional about how you use yourself to get there. So I'm very, very set on developing myself in this industry, becoming a sort of a household name within the marketing, brand, and content world, and becoming a respected figure. So my content is all centered around achieving that. I want to be able to to be people's go-to in this space. So I will try with my content to get there. You're not going to see sort of, I don't know, generic selfies about this and that. Yes, it builds connection, which is helpful, but I can build connection through the content that I create. I can bring myself into that through tone of voice, through imagery, through video, that allows that connection to be built with the intentional direction of where I'm heading. So when we talk about biggest mistakes, I think people misunderstanding the brand part of a personal brand is where I see most people going wrong, and then understanding why it's not working, but I'm not really sure what they're trying to achieve in the first place. So that's probably the biggest issue there. Perfect example about repurposing your content. I think you've got to, like, if you're, people often talk about like not having the time to create content. If you are able to, I mean, long form podcast or long form media is the most helpful because it provides the most opportunity for repurposing. But if you're not sweating that asset across all your platforms, you're wasting your like precious time in terms of creation, because that is a perfect example of how something can perform okay on one platform and take off on another platform, because they are different audiences, they are different platforms, they are different algorithms. Often it will take like a slight tweak. I wouldn't necessarily go around and tell people, unless you are absolutely strapped for time, to take the exact same creative and replaster it across your different platforms. They often have little nuances, and how you adapt that piece of content for the different platform changes. But you can take that short form piece of content and turn it into a carousel on Instagram, or you can turn it into a, you know, take the transcript, use 11 Labs, use some AI to draw the transcript like that. And I said 11 Labs, that's not what I meant. You can put it into ChatGPT, put it into Claude, and you can get your transcript, and you can turn it into an email newsletter, or you can turn it into a LinkedIn post. You can turn it into all these different sort of things if you're able to identify like the opportunity with the asset.
How do we come up with a content and a media strategy that helps us grow?
Firstly, you need to understand who you are trying to speak to. I think the gap I see often between like people's intentions and the content they're creating and results or successful brands is one knows who they're going after and they go after them, and the other one is trying to speak to everyone and you end up speaking to no one. I see it time and time again. You have to get really clear on who you're trying to speak to. Can you going back to traditional marketing terms, can you imagine the persona? Can you create a name for them? What would you talk about to them if you spoke to them in the street, or if you went for a coffee? What subjects are interesting them at the moment, and how can you infiltrate their consumption habits with your content? It's not about trying to grab their attention away from what they're currently doing. It's about how can you occupy that space in their brain or part of their habits of what they're doing every day with your content, and how can you solve a problem for them? Because no one needs really more content. Like, we are absolutely infiltrated every day with content coming out of our ears. You just have to open an app and you could get lost for hours and hours and hours. It's endless. And you really have to be speaking directly to them and solving for them to care. So if you've got a product, best believe they're not going to care about it until you tell them why they should care about it. So it's about really understanding who they are, deeply understanding their behaviors, where they hang out, the conversations they're having, and then finding the space you can occupy within their brain through your content. Like, ultimately, that's the goal. And then if we're talking about strategy, it's about how can you create a consistent output of content, whatever consistent means for you. Because if you're a founder of a small business in a one-man band situation, content needs to happen because organic content is free and it's free eyeballs. But you're also figuring the finance and the P&L and the budget and the production and the logistics, and you're doing everything. So you need to find what can be consistent for you, because if that's once a day, if that's twice a day, if that's once a week, you need to be able to maintain that over a consistent period of time in order to analyze, understand what's working, iterate, and start to consistently improve. Because I think what people do okay-ish is the input, and they're able to put content out there. And then they'll come to me in a year's time and go, the apps are broken, nothing's working, the algorithm is blacklisting me, it's not showing me to anyone. And I'll say, when was the last time you looked at your analytics or took a look at what was working and tried to iterate on that? Or are you just inputting into this machine? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I saw this work. They'll say, I saw this didn't work, so we didn't do that again. And I was like, okay, well, that's a good start. But have you looked what's working, why it's working, and what we can iterate on that? And it's, often no, or it's even worse. It's like, oh, I don't know where to find analytics. It's this full, it's a full ecosystem. It has to feed into the start again to keep iterating. Otherwise, you're going around in circles rather than spiraling upwards, which is where you're going to start to see growth.
Okay. And so then how do you tie the sales side to the content side? Because I've seen some of the inner workings of stuff. Yeah. And really, like, Dan's a sales engine. Like, what you guys do is really a sales engine.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we're very blessed to be able to make a lot of money on social media. I think it's something that's very unique to people in Dan's world and Dan himself, because we figured out a way to do it that doesn't diminish a brand, which is add value first, right? And Gary talked about this, jab, jab, right hook. Like, we're jabbing people all day long, 15, 20 jabs in a row, and then we do the right hook. And even when we do the right hook, you guys have got this message, right? Like, are you here for the content, or are you here for the vids, or want to grow your business, right? And if they say the vids, we just send them more vids, right? We just support them. So even in your right hooks, you have to be very jabby and be like, here's some more value. Because at the end of the day, like, our marketing will help more people than our product ever will. Because not everyone can afford to work with Dan. That's just the truth, right? And I think a lot of you guys should strive for that, where you make marketing content that's so good that people don't even have to pay you $1, but you've had massive upside impact in their life. So how do you build that sales engine? It starts from the content. And we talked about those 4 buckets, but our business content, most of it is 100% positioning content for our programs. And people, like, they'll say like, oh, so you're not giving value? No, we're 100% giving the best value, but it's positioning content, positioning Dan as a unique expert in the business field, so that when they think about working with Dan, it's already sold, right? Our salespeople are just taking orders. They're not selling, right? They call them sales, like they call them revenue team. They're taking orders essentially, because all the marketing's, all the work's been done on the front end of nurturing these leads, where they come in and they're like, I already know all of Dan's story and what he believes and how he scales businesses and the replacement ladder, the buyback loop, everything in the book. I just need some help implementing, right? I just need the implementation, right? So that's been the biggest thing for us, is just doing all the work on the front end, make your content great, and help more people than your product ever will. And if they want to lean in and buy your product, they get more value. I was sitting down with this person on Mr. Beast's team, and I asked him, like, if I just showed him everything. I gave him all the context. I'm like, this is us. What do you think we should do? And he looked at me kind of confused, and he's like, is the person shooting the videos the same person that comes up with the ideas? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, don't do that. I'm like, why? He said, because then you're just going to over-index for the easiest, fastest way to do things. And sometimes these ideas that get 10x results aren't necessarily easy to implement and execute. So the first thing I would do, and I'm assuming you're doing this, is separate ideation from production. So whoever's producing the videos, and I'm talking like the whole production, like even shooting, scripting, etc., and ideation are separate. The person coming up with the ideas and pushing for these ideas isn't the person writing them down and figuring out how we're going to make it work. Because I want the person in ideation, and for us, we have somebody external from the company that helps us with this, is this person has free reign. He's not thinking about how it's going to work. We have to figure that out as a production team. And obviously we have, fail stops and ways for him to narrow down ideas so that it's still like on Dan's brand and talks about his unique perspectives. But I would try to centralize ideation into a department, whether it's you or your production team, that's isolated from the production. That being said, that's like, I'd say the 90% of the ideas. The other 10% of you, like walking downtown and seeing like, oh, I think that could be a great idea. Have a place where you can store it and you know it's going to get reviewed. And this is the key, rejected or accepted, but you have to have a reason, right? Because in our ideation boards, and they're just Kanban boards, simple style, right? Like ideas, scripts, review, just like simple workflow. I would post every day, get a quota, 1 a day, 2 a day, whatever it is. Make better content every day, pay attention to the numbers. After 7 days, have your assistant or whatever, pull those videos, metrics with the follower amount, put it in a spreadsheet, sort it by followers. After 6 months, you'll have enough data to make decisions. And I would only create those videos at the top. You can obviously, and we call this and this is another Caleb Ralston framework, but we call this the 70-20-10. 70% of your content should be the content that performs, that you know is going to hit. Because we're in a world of performance. We're not here to make art, right? And I fucking love my artist friends. Sometimes I hire them. Sometimes I regret hiring them. Sometimes they sometimes they adapt. Sometimes they're like, oh, I like winning too. So they do stuff that actually performs. So 70% of your content should be shit that actually works, right? That you know works, that is tested, true, that you know is going to perform. 20%, you look at the 70%, you make an assumption. Oh, I think because Dan talked about his fiance in this way and he started this story this way, I think that's the reason it performed. Try to take that principle, maybe it's emotional connection, right? And apply it to another piece of content. That's your 20%, right? And you're taking those shots on goal. A lot of our 20% content is content that eventually performs because it's a principle that we've extracted from the content, right? And so 70 plus 20, I'm not good at math, but I think that's 90. That 90%, what the problem with that 90% is it's only going to hit whatever's in your box of thinking, right? Your brand box, which is like, this is what our constraints are. The missing 10%, which is what I tell every one of my editors to do on a Friday when they've got maximum creativity, is do shit that I've never seen before. Try stuff, right? And I don't care if it doesn't perform. I just want us to try. We're very caveman in our approach, right? And it works for us. I don't know if it's going to work for everyone, but it works really well for us because we do a lot of work on the back end with automation and AI. In a YouTube video, Dan talks about the scorecard. He's like, hey, and at the end, I'm going to share how you get this template. At the end, he's like, hey, glad you watched this video. If you want access to the scorecard, just message me scorecard YouTube on Instagram and I'll send it over. So I know every person that messages scorecard YouTube on Instagram is a person that watched that video, got to that point in the video, sent the message to get the scorecard, and then they're able to get nurtured from there. And that's been the best way. And then you can track it on the back end with just like AI automation with keyword search. So on the back end, we have a CRM for Instagram and we just like search. We have a report every week with all the keywords and we can see like, oh, this week EA performed really well. You guys have seen these. But yeah, just that's what we do. That's a very caveman approach. You could also just have a UTM link.
I trend jack this. I got a video that I think has got nearly 100,000 views and I got a ton of traffic to my YouTube channel. And that to me was like, wow. I then managed to get 1,000 plus leads for my business. So I use that kind of like, okay, there's some trending topic. It's relevant to me. I'm going to put my spin on it. And it was a bet that played out. Like it paid off as well. Like, and so that's a bit of a side lesson there for people. Like if there's something that is relevant, that is potentially a bit of a trend, jump on it. Make your version and you will have an increase in traffic to your stuff.
The amount of times I looked and I went, oh, that video is doing amazing in YouTube. And then I looked and I was like, oh, it's not doing very well for my business at all. And also the other way around was mad. Now, sometimes a video does get tons of views and tons of conversions, and that's amazing when that does happen, but a lot of the time it's not necessarily the case. Now, the next lesson is that when I worked out how long the shortcut deep dive and the roasts, the things I didn't plan as much, took me to make versus how long would they have taken if I just written them, I realized there was no difference in time saving at all. No script. What it meant was longer filming and editing time for myself, but if I wrote a script, it meant shorter writing and editing time. So it's kind of a trade-off. And it's weird. I actually think the deep dive took me 15 to 16 hours to make. And if I'd written it, I think it would have taken the same time. But I'm glad I decided not to cut corners there, because that video is a game changer. So what do? Script or don't script? The age-old battle. Well, really just pick one and then just go all in on doing that as often as you can. But for me, it is just an absolute no-brainer, and I'll die on this hill because writing is the most powerful skill in the world. If you get good at it, it's transferable because it impacts your social media, it impacts your sales pages, it impacts your email marketing, and it will just earn you more and grow you everywhere if you master it. But Ed, I'm not natural on camera. If I script, I don't want to use a teleprompter. Yeah, I've heard that before. Nobody is to start. And the final lesson is that the shortcut for YouTube does actually exist, and I found it, and it looks like this. All you have to do is put out quality content, hopefully so good it makes people go, damn, I ain't getting that anywhere else. I'm coming back to this person. But how do you do that in a way that's faster and easier? Well, pay attention to this graph. So that line that's going up is time and energy. And in the start of your YouTube journey, you're going to have to put tons of time and effort into this. But what happens is, as you repeat what works, as you build systems, as you work on formats that you can just do over and over again, you get so much faster at making them. And what that means is the shortcut happens here when you have made a lot of videos and figured out all of the things that I just said. But trying to avoid this pain sum is crazy. I don't think anyone with any level of success has ever avoided it. I technically only have to work an hour or two a day now, but I still do 12-hour days because I want to be the best. And I know I ain't getting there until I smash down much larger pain walls. So that is the decision you have to make. What side of that hump do you want to be on?
You can go straight into the vlogs. But for me, I found that wasn't me. The best thing to do would be, as I said before, you get your setup, you sit down, you talk about a particular topic, you do 2 of those videos a week, and then you just need to find an editor, find a thumbnail person, and then just pump them out. That would be the long format content covered. Ideally as well, that's only really going to help you out on YouTube, so you need to also have the other platforms covered. In an ideal scenario, you would hire someone to chop up the long format videos into short format. You then have 30-second or 1-minute video, which can then be put onto YouTube Shorts on that channel, put onto TikTok, put onto Instagram, or maybe Twitter as well. So it's really, you're sitting down, you're doing one piece of content which can be put out everywhere. Saves you the most amount of time.
And to scale a personal media company, you need to build a team of weapons. Weapon, an individual who, when brought onto a company, has the ability to 10x their area. They go above and beyond to fulfill the needs of the company and the mission. They hire more weapons and elevate your culture and speed of innovation. Here are the areas where weapons can help you in your business: tech, sales, video, photos, design, writing, funnels, animations, operations, video editing, and social posting. In the last 20 months, I grew an audience of over 2 million people around my personal brand. I haven't done this alone though. I've had an incredible team around me. Here's my org chart from Founder OS. But you don't need all of these folks to get started. Over time, you're gonna likely build a team such as a social manager to post all your content, a writer to help you craft your content, a video editor to edit your videos, and a videographer to then shoot your content. These 4 weapons can do damage. This is the profitable personal brand playbook.